Here we go, folks. Are you ready? We're going to announce the next great entrepreneur. Let's go.
The hashtag Be Your Own Boss panel is starting in Arch 2 now.
Please welcome to the stage your host, Simon Squibb.
Nice to meet you. Step in frozen freezer. Christian Dior, Jesus.
This is so amazing to be at an event again. It's not on my cue cards to say this, but isn't this amazing? This is awesome. Thank you so much, TikTok, for making life normal again. Thank you so much during lockdown and now. Thank you so much. Well, my name is Simon Squibb, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm very excited to tell you today who is going to be the next great entrepreneur in the UK. We spent the last 6 weeks searching, going through incredible submissions to the Be Your Own Boss campaign to find the entrepreneur that we think deserves love, support from everybody in this room, hopefully, as well as the TikTok universe, my organisation, sponsors like Intuitive QuickBooks, Tide Banking, and GoCardless. All of these amazing businesses are going to support these entrepreneurs that have entered into Be Your Own Boss. And the winner today will also get mentorship from what I think are the 12 most successful entrepreneurs in the UK. And some of them will be joining us on stage in a minute. And they're very humble people, so they won't describe themselves in the same way that I just did. But they're going to be giving mentorship to these entrepreneurs. And I know these people, and mentorship from these people isn't just 2 hours where they give you some advice. They open up their lives, they open up their little black books, they open up whatever they can to support you in your business. So let's get going. I think before we start, what I might do before our panel comes on stage, because once we get going, we're going to talk a little bit about failure in business. I think we all like to talk about our successes, and if anyone's ever looked at profiles on any of us, it's all about how much we've done, how successful we've been. But I personally learned the most from my failures. I've started 19 companies, 13 of them have actually kind of failed, and I learned the most. And the others would not have been successful if I hadn't had those failures. So we're going to have a little chat with successful entrepreneurs about their failures and what they think about failure, so that you guys can continue probably to fail and enjoy it, because I think that's part of it for me. But before we do, let me just give you a couple of clips. I think we've got 3 clips from some of the entries to Be Your Own Boss. So I think I've got to say, roll film 1.
I've done a few hidden veg posts, and judging by the response and reading your comments, it's clear there's a problem here. I know that so many of you struggle to eat vegetables, and it's a problem for many people worldwide. I want to do everything I can to help solve this problem and help you to get more veggies into your diet. So, to help with this problem, I've developed 3 hidden veg sauces that contain 9 different vegetables, over 20 grams of protein per serving. They're vegan, gluten-free, dairy-free, and contain no added sugar. We now have close to 1,000 people that have registered their interest in my sauces in just over 24 hours. If you would like to receive regular updates on my sauces and be notified as soon as they're available, click the link in my bio to register your interest. I hope you have a lovely day.
Thanks, Max. Cue video 2, please.
Hello and welcome to Impact Coffee. We're the UK's first nootropic cold brew coffee, creating a coffee that not only tastes great, but it also gives you the mind, body and energy to make more of an impact. It all started when I drank 9 of these bad boys in one day. I had the worst headache, I couldn't control my thoughts, and my toilet was pretty much my best friend. Not to mention I didn't sleep for 2 nighs. Definitely wouldn't recommend the strategy. So I decided to create a coffee that actually works for me, that doesn't make me feel bad and helps boost my productivity. I started experimenting with cold brew and adding herbs, vitamins. I even added cod liver oil at one point. Again, wouldn't recommend. A year and 27 different recipes later, and we've created Impact Coffee. We just did our first manufacturing trial runs, which means we have samples. To follow our journey, like and share this TikTok and visit our website. You might be able to win a sample.
And cue video 3, please.
Hey guys, my name is Ella. I'm a singer-songwriter and self-taught producer from Wales and based in London. And I'm making music like this, but it's unreleased, so don't tell anyone. Did you know that less than 2.6% of producers are females? I mean, what the... Why is it that people think that females can't produce? Because listen, girl. Help me abolish these stigmas by helping me create my own label, Unfurl, which is all-inclusive, a female-led and purpose-led label. I literally quit my job 2 weeks ago to be my own boss. If the pandemic taught me anything, is that life is too short to not fear and have purpose in life, and I know this is mine. This will also help propel my own solo artist music journey. There's nothing more I love doing than performing. Thank you so much for watching, guys. It means a lot.
So I have to tell you, going through the entries has been emotional for me and my team and all the judges. All the entries were mind-blowingly positive, upbeat, the future is bright, and it's very exciting. We will announce the winner at the end of this panel today, so I'm very excited to introduce to you the next great UK entrepreneur. So I think just before, maybe I'll ask the panel to come up, and while the panel is joining me and we can talk about failure, please come up quickly. I was asked by TikTok to tell you quickly my story. I actually was kicked out of home at 15 and was forced to leave school at the same time because of it. And I was suddenly, I had no choice but to become an entrepreneur. And I might start showing my age here, but I couldn't get a national insurance card because I was only 15 years old. So I couldn't get a job. And I had no choice but to start a business. And it was hard and it was lonely. And I look back at that time now with gratitude. The hard things in life actually teach you things. And it's given me a life today I absolutely love. I've got a 4-year-old boy who I get to spend time with because I can create content online around his schedule. And I feel lucky that I can do that, and it's because of that hard time when I was 15 years old. And I was forced to become an entrepreneur, and it taught me something. It taught me that we're all potentially entrepreneurs if we want to. No one's born anything. Don't let anyone tell you what you are. No one's born a doctor, no one's born a lawyer. To become anything, you need training, you need help, and you need support. And I feel like entrepreneurship's become this magical thing that only a select few can do, and it's not true. If you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to be in control of your own destiny, then you can. And that's the purpose of my life now. In a way, to go back to that 15-year-old me, although quite often the average age is 28, but go back to that younger me and help, because there's no need for you to be alone. So our mission at the Purposeful Project is to help 10 million people start a business of their own and make sure no one feels alone doing it. So that's my story. Now I'd love it if my panelists could tell a little bit about their story and then share their view on luck, or maybe, luck is one of my things in one of my other podcasts, but maybe you could share a little bit about failure and your experience of failure. Alex, do you want to go first?
All of that right now?
Yeah, you've only got 2 minutes as well, so good luck with that.
Okay, hi everyone, my name's Alex Sledge. I'm an entrepreneur. I'd like to say I'm serial, but I've only done 2 businesses. The first is Simon's 19. The first one was Hassel.com, which was an online marketplace, and my current business is Resi, which is the UK's largest residential architecture practice. All my businesses are digital. As you can tell, I'm not from London, I'm from Bradford, which had a big hole in the city for literally a hole for 8 years. So it kind of tells you what the prospects are coming out of Bradford. And I think that every journey's got luck. No matter what happens, there's always timing and serendipity. But I also think it's bloody hard work, and if things were easy, then they wouldn't be worth doing. So unfortunately, I feel that we live in a bit of a cult of the entrepreneur where it's laid out like it's really easy, and it's not. It's awful. Running a business through the pandemic is probably the hardest thing I've ever done. Never mind starting a business. And the last question, oh my God, failure?
Failure, yeah.
I fail all the time. I'm currently failing right now sitting here because something's blowing up in the business, but that just happens all the time. I agree with Simon. I think you learn the most out of failure. In fact, I've learned very little out of being successful, and everything's been learned by the mistakes that I've made, and they're just too common to mention, but I've made some pretty big ones. We can always talk about them when I get longer.
And I want to formally thank you for being a judge and a mentor for the Being Boss for Your Own Boss campaign. BJ, do you want to weigh?
Yeah, cool. Well, that's quite loud. So my journey started as a teenager. I had a tuck shop at school, and over the last 10 years, I've had businesses in music, marketing, retail, so a bit more like Simon, had 10 businesses, and half of them have failed. But failure is always hindsight, and failure can kind of give you contacts, it gives you access to things. I think one of the biggest failures for me has been after creating a really massive marketplace, over hiring. So sometimes, you know, when you're building quick, you feel like the solution is just to get more people, more. But in hindsight, you know, investing in better infrastructure, better tech would have been what we would have done 5 years ago. So I'm failing all the time. I think everyone's going to say that, but that particular lesson was very expensive, and I didn't get that one. So, yeah, that's me.
It was BJ's birthday 2 days ago, and if you go on my last TikTok video and tell me what his age was, if you're right, I'll do a duet with you later, because you'll be shocked at his age. But it was his birthday 2 days ago. If you can guess, go make a comment on my last TikTok video. And Andrew, do you want to step up and say?
Sure. No one needs to guess my age, but
Yeah, don't guess.
fair to say I'm the oldest here. But, so I'm Andrew Block. I'm the founder of a PR agency called Frank. I stepped back from that agency last year to move into a non-exec role, and now I do various different things. I'm spokesperson to Lord Sugar. I sit on the board of 5 or 6 different companies advising them on marketing. I sit on the business launch group for the Prince's Trust, a record label called Big Community Records, various different things. Firstly, thank you, Simon, for getting me involved in this project, and I've loved every second of it. It's completely inspired me. I think this is just the beginning. It hasn't finished yet. I mean, actually, you can still be in with a chance to win £25,000 if you're an entrepreneur. You set up a bank account on tide.co/be your own boss, plug over. Failures, quite a few. I think my hardest failure was probably after sort of 10, 11 years of building Frank, got to quite a sizable level, had offices in Sydney, in Manchester, in Glasgow, in London. We decided we would go to America, and everyone had told me how hard it was, how difficult it is for British agencies to establish themselves in the States. I thought I knew better, not out of cockiness, just sort of self-belief. Couple of years into it, and having sort of been travelling backwards and forwards on a plane, which at first was quite exciting, then very, very draining. We just weren't really going anywhere, and we were kind of not failing in that we were losing money, but I was taking my eye off the ball in terms of London, which was our biggest office, and things weren't going as well there, just because I couldn't cope with trying to deal with everything, and had to make a really difficult decision of, I felt a bit like a sort of player at a poker table, sort of kept putting down chips, hoping for something to sort of come in, get my hand, make the big win, and it just wasn't coming. So we shut it down, and I did feel like a failure. It was the first thing that I'd ever done that just hadn't really worked, but taught me a really, really valuable lesson to sometimes make difficult decisions, not be guided by your emotions and that fear of being looked at as a failure. And obviously we kind of got over it, got London back on track, and I'm pleased I did it. I wish probably we'd done it a little bit sooner, but yeah, sometimes failure can feel quite difficult, but there's no shame in failing as long as you learn from it and can take those lessons and move forward. So that's me.
Max needs no introduction.
I always go last, and I just feel like it's so hard to measure up, and I'm the least impressive person by a large margin.
But you've got the biggest following on TikTok, in fairness. So, you know, I don't know if that's true in this audience, definitely not.
Yeah, I guess. I have something. So my name is Max. I'm originally Ukrainian, moved to the UK 10 years ago. What I do now is I run a social impact communications agency called Flaminco, and we work with big organizations like the United Nations, NHS, the British government, and most of what we do is we help these organizations connect to Gen Z in quite purposeful projects, for example, to alleviate youth unemployment in the UK or to vaccinate the UK. We kind of worked a lot with the United Nations on that. I also make videos online about things that I like, about marketing, brands, psychology, my cat, my girlfriend, my breakfast, all kinds of things. In terms of failure, I think that the path has been quite smooth for me so far, so I'm super anxious about what's coming my way because I know that big failures are coming. So I'm really, really curious to hear kind of how to deal with those. I'd really welcome some input. I mean, the one thing that I think about when I hear failure is when it was my first year in law school, and I just moved from Ukraine, And the feedback that I got from my essay that scored proud 32% out of 100 was that I'm hopelessly inadequate and I shouldn't be here. But yeah, so that I use that to kind of drive me a little bit, but I wouldn't say it's like a historic failure, just a stumble.
I've just mentioned that, and I'm not sure I'm allowed to mention other platforms on this stage, but BJ and Alex I met at Clubhouse, kind of. We've become friends at Clubhouse, right? We were working together on Clubhouse on something called Startup Radio. So you're meeting there the first time I met them too, which is really weird because I consider them friends. So it's a very special time to be here. I'm not sure how much time we have, but I always feel like I like to talk about this concept of luck a lot, and Alex kindly touched on it too. But quite often, luck is a very important ingredient in being successful, and sometimes you can be lucky to fail. So there's the link to it. But I think the winner today, I have to say, it is very hard to have picked a winner for this campaign, as I mentioned earlier. And you could argue there's always an element of luck in whatever plays out. And I think that for me, I've written a book, and when I originally wrote the book, it was about how brilliant I was as an entrepreneur. And when I read it back, there was something missing from it, some fact that I thought could help people, and that was the reason I wrote the book. And it wasn't to make me look good, it was to try and help people. And when I read it back, it just wasn't quite doing it. And then I looked back at my life very objectively and realised that there were certain moments in my life that if I hadn't had that luck, I wouldn't be sitting on this stage today talking like a successful entrepreneur. I wouldn't be able to have that cred. And I think luck is so crucial, and I want people to realise they need luck, because, for example, you'll hear quotes like, the harder you work, the luckier you get, and that means people just think working hard is going to do it, and then a lot of people run themselves into the ground. And let's face it, if working hard equals success, every nurse in this country today should be a billionaire, right? So working hard alone isn't enough, and it kind of takes away, I think, from the nuance of what actually brings luck, right? And luck is actually a formula. Luck is actually split into two things. 2% of your life, only about 2% of your life is random luck, actually. Luck you can't control. Where you're born, for example. That will affect your life, and you can't control it no matter how hard you work, right? But that's only 2% of your life, it turns out. 98% of your life is focused around luck you can influence, right? And that's influenced three ways. One, you've got to take a lot of risk. The more risk you take, the luckier you get. Will be a better TikTok than just saying how harder you work, right? You need to take a lot of risk. Risk links to fear. You need to enjoy fear a little bit, lean into it, right? The second thing is you need to be consistent. You need to follow through. And sometimes you need to quit, mind you, but you also need to follow through on quitting, right? Everything is a follow through. And then finally, you've got to know your destination, where you're going, what are you trying to do. So just going back to the panel, what do you think, maybe BJ, what do you think about luck? How do you see luck in the world? By the way, I said BJ looks young because he's so wise. I've sat in Clubhouse with him listening to his wise words, and he seems like someone in his late 80s with his wise words, old soul. Anyway, go on, BJ, tell us your stories.
I think you put it quite nicely there with the 3 points you made. I think for me, luck reminds me a lot of serendipity. You can create your own luck by meeting, it's almost like preparation meeting opportunity, so that you have a destination in your mind, and you're talking about it openly, you know that what you stand for means every time you're interacting with an organisation, another human, or just an experience, you always walk in your truth, and that walk in your truth, if the right opportunity lands, it's a lucky moment. But really and truly, if you look back in hindsight, it's not lucky because you weren't clear, and someone else was clear. Makes magic. So that's how I look at it, and it's definitely helped me a lot in my life. I've been to some really interesting places and met some interesting people, and luck can be something that can change your life.
I think also as well, just like building on what you said, I just think that, like, don't be an arsehole, and it sounds like so obvious,
that should be a
right?
t-shirt.
But I think that one thing I've always tried to do is be a nice person, like be kind and nice, and I feel like in the States, like there's a phrase of like paying it forward, and it's one that I absolutely live by, and I'll always open my door for someone that wants help, wants advice, whatever, and I feel like the reason that, if you build on, like, I've always taken risks, I'm doggedly persistent, like dog with a bone persistent, and I've always worked hard. I think the other thing is that I've always been quite nice, and I think if someone comes to me and they're a bit arrogant or a bit full of confidence, and that can be a defense mechanism, and you can try and break that down underneath the nice. But actually, the people that like are humble, the people that, you know, ask for help, that listen, that are kind of, you know, approach it like they don't know everything, like they're the people you want to help. Like, at least now in my business now, they're the people that I want to get on board and help with. And I think, being prepared, taking the opportunity and being nice with it, it gets you really far, a lot further than I think a lot of people realise. So that would be like my one thing about luck, is if you're nice, I think luck does find you. Does that sound? I just sound like a total.
No, it's I think you by the way, I want to make sure what Alex just said there is I think important for anyone listening here in the audience or on TikTok. The strongest people in the world ask for help, right? It's a strong thing to do, to ask for help. It's the hardest thing to do. I know myself, looking back at my 15-year-old self, I wanted to do it on my own. Actually, the strongest people ask for help. And the other thing is, you get what you give. It's definite. I know karma is kind of, you know, another cheesy way of putting it, but 100%. That's my last TikTok, by the way. That exact message Alex has just explained. It was my last TikTok. And I really think this is crucial. And actually, then you're lucky because you have positive energy in your life, right? Because what is a good life? What is success? I think it's being surrounded by people that actually give a shit about you, even when you're down. Right? Max, what do you think? I don't want to make you laugh. I want to make Andy laugh.
Okay. I just love how Simon shamelessly plugs his TikTok over and over.
Yeah, Andy's on the screen in case you weren't sure of the handle. I've got to catch you up somehow, Max. It'll be great.
I mean, I think for me, and there is actually a different stat around luck and where you were born. So there is a stat on 80% of your financial outcomes are directly correlated with the geography where you were born. So I think we have to understand that if we are in this room, then we are already top 1% of the luckiest people in the world. So everyone is already lucky, so we might as well just kind of end this topic. I would say that for me, like what's been a revelation is that I think for a long time I've overestimated what other people are doing and how good they are, and underestimated how good I can be. So it's like sometimes you can look at people like Simon or anyone else and be like, wow, like they must know something I don't, or they must be just built different. But that's not true. I think that you should definitely kind of play on your own strength, and then luck or no luck, you probably be in a better position than if you idealize someone else and underrate yourself.
You are built differently though, Max. You've got 6 degrees. Four. Sorry, 4. Only 4. My mistake. I can't even add up how many degrees you've got. That's how.
Did you do, sorry, run them concurrently while in nappies?
No, well, I did 2 of them together, and then the others while I was working, and then another one I had to film.
I'm convinced. I lived in Thailand for 2 years, and you can buy a degree there. It's quite cheap. I reckon you went on holiday to Thailand.
Yeah, you can buy one in Ukraine.
Yeah. And by the way, joking aside, your point about where you're born is really interesting. I've also looked at it. I mean, I did live in Thailand for 2 years, and part of it when you go there, you go to some of the poor villages. They're described within briefing documents as poor villages. And you go to these places, and they're the warmest, happiest places on earth. So the stats of where you're born and happiness and success, it's interesting because I remember going there thinking these people they're so happy. They're not watching Love Island. I think we're sponsoring Love Island on TikTok, I'm not sure. But anyway, they're actually happy with what they've got and who they've got around them. You know, like they're happy to have a good meal. You know, there's something being grateful about that. I learned a lot by hanging out in what geographically are described as the not lucky 1%. And actually, they're in Bhutan, for example, they have the happiest place on earth is Bhutan. I've been there. They are the happiest people on earth. I've never seen people. They don't stop smiling. They've got strange things drawn on their building walls. I don't think I'm allowed to say the word on camera, but they've got strange things drawn on the wall. And I think that's what makes them happy. And anyone's been to Bhutan knows what I'm talking about. But Andrew, what do you think?
Well, I love what Alex said, and I think being humble is an important quality to have in business, and being able to give back and give time to people. I also like, not comparing yourself to others is really important. And even the most successful entrepreneurs in the world still have this tendency to compare themselves to the next billionaire. If they've got a yacht, they're comparing their yacht to the next biggest yacht. It's a really waste of time and energy, I think. For me, success, there's 3 factors. You have to work hard, there's no doubt about it. Nothing comes without hard work. You have to have talent, and you've got to find what your talent is in. You can work really, really hard, but if you're no good at what you're trying to do, ultimately you're not going to achieve success. And then I believe that 3rd factor is luck. Sometimes you can work really hard, be good at what you're doing, but you don't kind of get that lucky break. And if all those three factors combine, and yes, Simon, it's a complete cliche, you make your own luck, but it's true. So you work hard, find something you're good at, put your energy into it, realise that you are better than other people, that you do have this natural ability. That luck will find you, and that, for me, is where success comes from.
Now, normally on these panels, I'd like to take some questions from the audience, but I'm not quite sure if we're allowed to do it. I didn't check. But does anyone have any quick questions they want to ask before we announce the winner? Don't feel obliged. Sure, go ahead.
Being kind of like a young aspiring to like entrepreneur like myself, and also like the Generation Z rate, which is like the inability to have any type of patience, very generally quite anxious. I would love to hear your guys' tips for in terms of like dealing with that patience and learning to be, because I guess so many kids and young people nowadays want to be successful, and because you get everything so quickly, food, taxis, everything happens so quickly. So if you want something we have to work hard for, but you don't get it straight away, so obviously the burden and kind of feels different. So I'd love to hear your guys' tips on any type of patience or things to give kind of anxiety and stuff.
Yeah, I got it. I'll sum it up. Did you guys hear that?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, my quick take on this is it's a great question, and I guess you're talking about patience. As soon as I say that word now, I feel like I'm Gary Vee suddenly, because it's be patient. But I think one thing I always try to reflect on is enjoy the journey. You know, there's a process, and actually that's the really fun bit. It's like going on a trip. When you actually get there, it's kind of a disappointment, right? Okay, so there's a beach and there's sun. Right? It's the trip, right? It's the experience of doing things with people and seeing things on the way to the airport and vice versa. That's my quick take on it. You know, try to enjoy the journey. Remember, the journey is actually the value, right? Anybody else want to add?
I think, so first of all, thank you for acknowledging that, because I have 120 Gen Zs or whatever you called in my company, and everybody wants a promotion within like 6 months of joining it. And I mean, I'm exaggerating, but it's really exasperating sometimes because, you know, you have to kind of learn a bit of wisdom and gather some experience. Like, it doesn't mean you can't be successful young, it just means that like you kind of have to maybe restrict the area that you want to be successful in right down. But I think what I would say to you is break it down. Like, so if success for you is you know, turning over £1 million in your business, there are loads and loads of milestones that you're going to pass along that way, a bit like Simon said. So as well as enjoying the journey, if you map out those milestones first, it might be your first employee. You might get an office. I love the office, by the way. You might get an office. It might be your first paid, you know, influencer. It could be any of these things. Could be like definitions of success on that journey. So what I would say is write them down at the start, and some you may hit and some you may not. But it will help you enjoy the journey along the way and be more patient, because instead of kind of being, you know, impatient to reach that massive goal, you know, you can be a little bit impatient to reach some of these sort of micro goals, which are really important in achieving the overall success that you want.
So I take that. Anyone working for Alex, stop asking for a pay rise. Is that what everyone else heard? Is that right?
No, just stop asking for a promotion.
Stop asking for a promotion. Anybody else? BJ, I thought you might have a good hand on this.
So yeah, once you've deployed everything that's already been said, I think the next bit is to work on yourself. So one thing that I like to say to other young entrepreneurs is education doesn't stop because you left school or because you dropped out. That's when the education begins. You actually get paid more to be a nerd or be a geek or to be knowledgeable. So if you're going into any market, one of the things that can help with that patience, but also what comes with patience is also something feeling daunting or feeling too big, is just be well read, read a lot, ask loads of questions, develop your own curriculum for yourself around things you want to learn, because the next step you're going to take as an entrepreneur is leadership. You're going to be doing legal, PR, marketing. There's so many things that you're going to have your hand across. Don't be afraid to ask those questions. And then I suppose the flip side of the mental health quadrant, I would say, is build accountability groups. So something that I've been involved in recently, we started just before the pandemic and it's continued more, is creating safe spaces for me and other entrepreneurs, kind of rooms where no more bars, you can just talk the truth and just break it down, because part of that angle of racing is because you feel like you need to hit that next milestone. But if you actually start talking, you know, once every 2 weeks with people, you'll be very surprised that a lot of people are going through similar things, and people can kind of save you a lot of time by having those kind of conversations. So don't be scared if there's no one you know in your town that is not an entrepreneur. The beauty of the internet is to meet lovely people. and just as long as you're offering value, people will connect with you.